Clara had always considered her life to be quiet, almost monotonous, comfortable. Her routine consisted of working in the city library, surrounded by old books and comforting silence, followed by long, solitary walks to her small house at the end of a deserted street. It was a quiet life, without great excitement or surprises. One evening, upon returning from work, Clara found a letter in her mailbox. There was no sender, and the envelope looked old, with yellowed edges and elegant cursive handwriting that seemed to have come from another era. Curious, she tore off the stamp and began to read. "My dear Clara, from the moment I saw you, I knew that we were destined to be together. Soon, we will be one, and all the promises I made in another life will be fulfilled. Do not fear, for our love transcends time and death. Her future husband, Victor." Clara's blood runs cold. She had never met a Victor, and she certainly hadn't promised her heart to anyone. Trying to shake off her discomfort, Clara decides that it could only be a joke or a mistake. But when other letters begin to appear daily, always signed by the mysterious Victor, she can no longer ignore them. Each letter describes memories of moments that Clara doesn't remember having lived, but that somehow seems strangely familiar. Victor talks about a garden where they used to walk, describes a house with blue windows and the feeling of hands clasped together in the evening light. Determined to find the truth, Clara begins to investigate the origin of the letters, but the more she searches, the more the answers elude her. The letters, which seemed ancient, dated several decades ago, made it impossible for Clara to locate any Victor who was still alive. Clara visits the local registry office and library, where she delves into historical records, obituaries, and old news stories. Amidst the piles of dusty papers, she finds a newspaper clipping with a photo of a couple who strangely resemble herself and the man described in the letters. The article, dated 1924, tells of the tragic car accident that took the life of Victor Belmont, a young engineer just days before his wedding to a woman named Eleanor, whose last name is identical to Clara's. The wedding was supposed to take place in the same town where Clara currently lives. The similarities between Clara and Eleanor are eerie, as if they were the same person from different times. A chill runs down Clara's spine when she realizes that the letters were not just a hoax, but messages from a man who died almost 100 years ago. Dread begins to creep into Clara's mind, but she can't stop investigating. As she learns more about Eleanor, she feels her fate is intertwined with hers in ways she cannot comprehend. Even as those around her begin to notice her growing obsession, Clara feels she is getting closer to the truth. The letters continue to arrive, but now they are accompanied by other signs. Clara begins to hear whispers in her house, which increase in intensity during the night. She feels the presence of someone or something watching her, always lurking. Windows open by themselves and objects move from place to place without explanation. Victor, or the entity that presents itself as such, seems to be getting closer and closer to Clara. She begins to have visions of a life that is not hers, but that feels as if it were. She sees herself in an old wedding dress, sitting next to Victor, feeling the happiness of a deep love, but always interrupted by a feeling of impending death. Clara tries to free herself from this cycle, but the more she struggles, the stronger the connection between her and Victor seems to become. Her sleep is disturbed by nightmares of a car accident, packed with vivid images of Victor covered in blood, calling out to her. Clara begins to doubt her sanity, wondering if she is living under a curse or simply succumbing to madness. Determined to find a way to break the cycle, Clara begins to delve deeper into Eleanor's life and Victor's story. She discovers that Eleanor and Victor were deeply in love, but the accident that took Victor's life happened under mysterious circumstances. Rumor has it that Eleanor, consumed by grief, cast a curse, swearing that their love would never be complete until they met again, even if it took centuries. Clara finds Eleanor's diary in an antique shop, where the bride writes of her despair after Victor's death and the rituals she performed in the hope of bringing him back. The final pages of the diary speak of an alliance with dark forces, sealing her fate and Victor's in an endless cycle of death and rebirth. Clara realizes that she is Eleanor's reincarnation and that Victor is trying to complete the marriage that was interrupted decades ago. Victor's death was not an accident, but part of a cycle of tragedy that repeats itself in each of Eleanor's lives. Desperate, Clara seeks the help of a medium to try to communicate with Victor's spirit and break the curse that imprisons her in a destiny of pain and loss. Clara and the medium perform a ritual in their home in a desperate attempt to free Victor's spirit and end the curse. The atmosphere becomes dense, and the temperature in the room drops dramatically. The medium begins to speak in a voice that is not his own, but Victor's, declaring his eternal love for Clara. Victor begs Clara to complete the marriage, believing that only then will they both be able to rest in peace. He recalls moments of their tragic love, trying to convince Clara that they are destined to be together forever, even if it means her death. Clara, with a heavy heart, realizes that what Victor wants is to drag her to the same dark fate as him, repeating the cycle of death and rebirth. She feels a mixture of love and fear, but knows that she must make a choice. Following Victor would mean accepting her fate, but she knows that this would not bring peace to either of them. At the height of the ritual, Clara makes a difficult choice and, in tears, refuses Victor's request. She says that although she loves him, she cannot continue to be trapped in a cycle of pain. Victor's spirit screams in despair, and the room is filled with a powerful force, as if the world around him is about to shatter. After the tumult of the ritual, Clara's house falls silent. She feels exhausted, as if she has fought an exhausting battle. During the following days, Clara notices that the letters have stopped arriving. Whispers and visions also cease. Slowly, she begins to believe that the curse has been broken. Clara visits the graves of Victor and Eleanor, which she discovers are in the local cemetery. She places flowers on the headstone and murmurs a prayer for their souls, hoping that they can finally rest in peace. As the days pass, Clara feels a lightness she has not experienced in months. Presence that haunted her has disappeared, and she feels free to live her own life, without the shadows of the past haunting her. However, one last letter mysteriously appears on her desk at work. This time, there is no signature, just a single sentence: "We will meet again, in another life." Clara puts the letter away in an old book and smiles to herself. She knows that her path now is to live fully, and if fate allows, she will face any challenges that come her way in another life. As she walks through the city under the bright sunshine, Clara feels a new beginning. She's no longer stuck in the past, but instead looks to the future with hope and determination. The scars she bears are deep, but they are also a testament to her strength and resilience. And so, Clara and Victor's story ends, at least for now. After all, fate is a capricious game, and love, even in death, never completely disappears.